Hello everyone, we hope you're doing well at home, staying safe and healthy. Today we're going to talk about time. So, our learning goals are I can identify parts of an analog clock and what they do, and I can show time to the hour and half hour on an analog clock. So as we get started, you're going to need a paper or some paper. You're probably going to want 2 pages for sure, and a pencil or something to write on and something to write with. Go ahead and pause the video at any point throughout that you might need a little bit more time, whether it's finding materials or a little bit more think time as we're working. The first thing we're going to do is I want you to generate what you know about clocks and time. So on your paper, I want you to just start jotting down at the top, what do you know about telling time? Pause the video as you do that. Now write what you know about clocks. Again, pause the video as you write all that you know about clocks. Write for about a minute. I also want you to write for a minute about things that confuse you about telling time. If there's nothing that confuses you, I want you to write more about what you know about a clock. So, we're going to start first by just some general information. We're going to find out how many minutes, seconds, and hours are in a day or within an hour, so that when it comes time to telling time, you have a little bit more background knowledge. So, there is a second hand on the clock that we'll talk about in a little bit, and there's 60 seconds in a minute. Give me a thumbs up if you knew that. Awesome! There are also 60 minutes in an hour. Give me a clap if you knew that. Great! How many hours do you think are in a day? So we have 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. How many hours do you think are in a day? 24 hours in a day. So if you said that, congratulations, you're right. If not, it's a little bit deceiving because there's 60 seconds, 60 minutes, and now there's only 24 hours in a day. We're going to go through and talk about now what different types of clocks there are and how to tell time using them. So there's something called an analog clock that we'll talk a lot about today, and a digital clock, which we'll talk about a little bit. So an analog clock looks something like this. You can see that there are many different hands on the clock, and we'll be going through what all of those hands do. And then there's something called a digital clock, which really just tells you the time. So you don't have to read a clock like this, but instead you can just say it's 7:10. So 7 o'clock and 10 minutes. So analog clocks are a little bit trickier than digital clocks. So I want to take some time to dive into how to use the analog clock to tell time. So as we do this, I want you to create a clock with me. So on your paper, right under where you're writing all of your information before, I want you to draw a circle. And then you're going to put, and you're going to want to make sure it's big enough so that you can fit all the numbers around it that we would need. And then I want you to put a dot in the very center of the circle. Got it? Good. Remember, pause the video if you need more time. Now we're going to add the numbers. As we add the numbers to the clock, we're not necessarily just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, because there's certain spots that each number needs to go, and it's easiest if we start with 12. So at the very top of the clock, right at the top in the center, you're going to write 12. Directly across from that, on the bottom, you're going to write 6. So on the side, you'll write 3. So we're kind of cutting it into fourths. And then opposite of the 3, you're going to write 9. Give me a thumbs up if your clock looks like mine. Awesome. Now, we're going to fill in the other numbers. So I want you to start after 12, and you're going to put 2 numbers in between 12 and 3. So you're going to want to space them appropriately so that you don't have 12, 1, 2, and then a big space before 3, because it should all be even between numbers. So put a 1 after the 12, and then a 2. Do the same between 3 and 6, so 4 and 5. We already have the 6, so 7, 8, and then our last numbers are 10 and 11. So make sure your clock looks like mine. If it doesn't, pause the video and take some time to make sure it does. Now, we've talked already that there are 24 hours in a day. So there's only 12 numbers on an analog clock, but the hour hand will go around twice in a day. So there's 12 o'clock a.m. and 12 o'clock p.m. a.m. would be morning, p.m. would be afternoon or evening. So again, 24 hours in a day, the hour hand will go around the clock twice. There are 60 minutes in a day. So for each hour that we go through, that minute hand is going to go around 60 minutes. So it's going to go around 1 time per hour. And in between each of these numbers is actually 5 minutes. So if you notice that there's the 12 here, is actually we're going to start at 0, 0. So there's 0 minutes here. And from 12 to 1, there's going to be 5 minutes happening in between there. So if we look at a clock this way, again it was 0, 0, 0 minutes at 12. Then it's going to be 5 minutes by the time you get to 1, 10 minutes by the time you get to 2, 15 minutes by the time the minute hand gets to 3, and then it goes up by 5 increments. So if it's in between, it could be 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Here between it would be 16, 17, 18, 19. So you'll need to know this in order to be able to tell time to the minute. So now we're going to talk about the other pieces of the clock. So we understand the numbers and the minutes that happen on the clock, but we're going to need to understand the different hands that are on the clock as well. So we have here the second hand. So usually it's in red, but it's a really skinny arm that goes around the clock very quickly. So it moves around the clock in 1 minute. So that is our second hand. Then there's another hand that's darker usually and long, and this is called our minute hand. So this is going to move space every minute. So to get from the 4 to the 5, it would be 5 minutes before this hand would get from the 4 to the 5. So that is the minute hand. Then we also have the hour hand. Now the hour hand is going to be shorter and usually a little bit thicker, and this one's going to move the slowest on the clock. So when my minute hand is here, my hour hand is going to be moved past the hour that it is and working towards the next hour. So here the time would be roughly 8:22 because I am between 20 minutes and 25 minutes. So here's a little poem to help us remember the hour hand. The little hand has all the power. It's the one that tells the hour. So this can help you remember the hour hand. Repeat it with me. The little hand has all the power. It's the one that tells the hour. Nice work. So we had talked about the analog clock a lot. Now we're going to just talk a little bit about the digital clock, because the digital clock is something you're probably more used to and is really super simple. It tells you exactly what time it is rather than having to read a clock. So here it's telling us the hour and the minutes. So right now it's 9 o'clock. If I wanted to show 4 o'clock on an analog clock, I would need my hour hand to be pointed at the 4 and my minute hand to be pointed at the 00, so o'clock. If I wanted to show 11 o'clock, I want you to draw this one on your paper. What do you think 11 o'clock would look like? Pause the video so that you have time to make 11 o'clock on your paper. So for 11 o'clock, my hour hand is going to be pointed at 11, and my minute hand is going to be pointed at 12 for 00. Now 12 o'clock is a little bit trickier because my hour hand is pointed at the 12 and my minute hand is pointed at the 12. So now we're going to do a half hour. So if it's 9:30, I want you to draw what you think it would look like on your paper. You can make your clock and draw what you think it would look like to be 9:30. Pause the video if you need more time. So for 9:30, if it was 9 o'clock, the arrow would be pointed right at 9. But now we're already halfway around the clock, getting to 10. So my hour hand is going to be halfway between 9 and 10. So it's actually going to look something like this. Then my minute hand will be pointed at 30 minutes, so it'll be pointing to the 6. Give me a thumbs up if that's what you had on your paper. Awesome. So now if it's 1:30, draw what you think that would look like. Pause the video if you need more time. So 1:30 would have, again, it's not going to be pointed right at 1 because we're already halfway to 2. So this hour hand is moving slowly towards the next hour. So it's halfway between 1 and 2. And then the minute hand would be right down to the 6 for 30 minutes. So this is 1:30. Lastly, I want you to show me 12:30. What do you think 12:30 would look like? Pause the video and make that on your paper. So again, it's halfway to 1, so it would be between the 12 and the 1, and then the minute hand would be at the 30 minutes, or at the 6 on the bottom. So this would be 12:30. Give me a clap if that's what you had. Great work. So now is a time for you to show your teacher what you know and if you're understanding clocks. So I want you to create 3 new clocks on a different piece of paper or draw a line to separate it from the paper that you're using so that they know that these are the 3 clocks that you're going to be using for your little quiz. And make sure your name is on your paper right above those clocks so that as you hand in your work, they will know who it's for. So you're going to number 1 through 3 on those 3 clocks so they know which one is your answer 1, which one is your answer 2, and which one is your answer 3. Pause the video if you need more time, and you can pause the video between each one if you'd like. So for number 1, I want you to make 6 o'clock on your first clock. So you'll need to draw the minute hand and the hour hand. Then for the second clock, make 8:30. And on your third clock, I want you to make 2 o'clock. Nice work. So once you're all done, take a picture of your work, questions 1 through 3, and post it on Seesaw if your teacher has that, or email the picture to them, or you can send it on Remind if that's what you've been doing as well. Or if you haven't been communicating with them that way, you can put this work in your folder and send it back to school for your teacher. Thank you so much. Have a great day telling time.